We have been taught that love should feel like something is at stake, that the relationship worth having is the one that almost breaks you first. And if it doesn't consume you, doesn't make you think about it all the time, it probably is not real. That equation is one of the most expensive mistakes a person can make. The distinction. Intensity and depth are not the same thing. They don't even come from the same place. Intensity comes from uncertainty, from your anxiety, from not knowing if someone will stay or they're going to leave, from the constant low-grade alarm of a nervous system that cannot fully relax in the presence of another person. When love becomes unpredictable, every moment of closeness feels like more valuable. It is not that the connection is really deeper. It is that the certainty of being truly wanted has become scarce. And the scarcity changes how the human's brain values everything. That alarm feels like aliveness to some people, feels like passion, and it feels like this person is unlike anyone else. Those feelings are real because a lot of people experience that kind of relationships. They are caused by the mechanism of our human brain, the nerve system, how they wired the mechanism. A relationship that is chaotic gets called deep, for some people. A relationship that is addictive gets called passionate. And a relationship that consumes a person's life gets called soul level. But chaos is not depth. Addiction is not passion. Consumption is not connection. These are intensity that running through a nervous system, our human's nervous system, that learned somewhere along the way that love comes with instability attached. 3 different questions. Most people confuses 3 things that are actually measuring completely different realities. Intensity in a relationship asks, how much do I feel? Duration in a relationship asks, how long did it last? Depth in a relationship asks something different from both 2 above. It asks, how much reality can this relationship contain without collapsing? How much truth can 2 people hold without either one abandoning themselves? These are not the same question. And the answer to one tells you almost nothing about the answer to others. What depth actually requires. So here is the real test. Can this relationship contain disagreement, disappointment, imperfection, boredom, grief, success, change, life failure and stress, the full individuality of 2 separate human beings? If it can only exist when everything feels magical, that is intensity. If it only survives because one person is abandoning themselves, that is dependency. If it continues only because someone is too afraid to leave, that is fear. None of those are depth. the quieter truth. Depth feels different from all of those. Depth is quieter than intensity, usually, which is exactly why some people so often mistake for less. Depth is what remains when fear is no longer driving the relationship. When the chasing is gone, when the need to perform, to prove yourself, to hold down finally settles. So what's left after all of that is not absence, is emotionally clarity. And the real emotional clarity feels steadier than anything intensity ever produced. It doesn't race, you don't feel that racing. It doesn't obsess. It does not keep you at night up because you're wondering at night, oh my God, if I'm still good enough. Which means to a nervous system trained on those intensity kind of relationship, it can feel like almost too quiet to trust at first. Intensity relationships asks, how strongly do I feel? Depth in relationship asks, how much of me can remain after the feeling changes? Intensity measures the volume of emotion. Depth, it measures how much reality the relationship can contain. Intensity asks for your attention. Depth earns your trust. The duration illusion. So there's something that I would like to be said about those long relationships, those long time relationships. We have been taught that a relationship which lasts a lifetime is evidence of something real. Sometimes it is. In some couples' cases, that's actually real. Because sometimes two people, they're more integrated, they build something together genuinely deep. So they build together deeply, and then something that makes both of them more whole over time. That kind of couple is real. But duration, the long-lasting relationship alone, proves nothing. Because there is another version of a lifetime relationship that almost nobody talks about, honestly. A relationship that lasted a lifetime, but only because one person learned to make themselves smaller and smaller every time the other person needed more room. So they stayed, they endured the whole entire lifetime, and then they call it devotion. The person holding on thought they were demonstrating love. They thought their endurance was evidence of how deep the connection was. But what was actually happening was something different. So this person, piece by piece, accommodation by accommodation, year after year, one person usually in this kind of relationship was disappearing. It's not because love was not profound. Maybe they do have some love. But leaving requires a self that's still intact enough to work out. So from outside, it looks like exactly like a depth. It looked like loyalty. It looked like commitment. It looked like everything people claimed to want. How many couples, like similar like my own parents, my mom would just tolerate and put up and endure whatever my father's emotional, psychological, those kind of, mistreatment, those kind of abusive behaviors. And then my mom, in their old time, they have to stay in a marriage because that's what they're supposed to do. But depth requires two whole people. A relationship where one person has been slowly disappearing for 20, 30, 40 years. Like my mom disappeared her entire life. That is not depth. It is one of the most common and painful and enduring forms of intensity, precisely because it wears the disguise of devotion. The intensity of self-erasure, mistaken for an entire lifetime as love. The framework. So here is how I think about it. A high intensity relationship with zero depth feels like everything. It burns fast. It leaves damage. A lifelong duration relationship, if it's not healthy, can be zero depth too. It looks like success from the outside, but it costs one person everything in the inside. A relationship with true depth usually has quiet intensity, enormous capacity, two people who remain whole inside the structure they are building together. So the last one is rare. Most people definitely want the third one, the last kind of love. But most people have been trained to recognize intensity as love and have never been given a framework for what depth actually feels like from the inside. Today, I'm giving you a clearer framework of when love is in depth. Not so you become more suspicious of people. That's not my purpose. But so you stop mistaking intensity for evidence. Real question. So the question worth asking is not, do I feel intensely about this person? The question is, do I feel safe enough to actually be known by this person? Because intensity can exist without safety, without honesty, without consistency, without the capacity to stay present when the feeling stops being overwhelming and then starts being real. And the deepest question of all, the one that only time can answer, is this. After years together, are both people more themselves? Or is one of them less? Depth is not the absence of feeling. It is the purification of feeling. What remains when those fears, the chasing, possession, and emotional noise has been reduced? It's not less. It's more clean. It's cleaner, quieter, and far more capable of a lasting than anything intensity ever built. This is one piece of a longer investigation into what actually builds lasting relationships. And it was never about how intensely you feel it, what astrology sign you were, or whether the chart, your birth charts, said that you are compatible or not. The full investigation is called Astrology Got One Thing Wrong. Your sign is not your destiny. You'll find that on this channel.